Good afternoon, everyone. Marta and I are heartened to see you on our screens, and we're joined today by Secretary and Vice President for University Life Kimberly Goff-Crews, Yuliia Zhukovets, a junior in Franklin College, and University Chaplain Sharon Kugler. To everyone online, thank you for taking the time to participate in this Vigil for Peace. All of us recognize that the world is in a somber, perilous place. And over the past few days, I've watched with horror, as I know you have, Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Putin's aggression against a sovereign, independent nation raises the specter of prolonged conflict throughout Europe. This is the largest ground attack in Europe since World War II. We know from history that the risks of miscalculation are dangerously high. And at Yale, we are compelled by our common sense of humanity to reject this violence in the strongest terms. We stand for peace. We grieve for the lives lost. We also support the students and scholars of the Yale Ukrainian community and those Yale students and scholars from elsewhere in the region, including Russia, who I'm confident do not support this invasion. I know many of our students and colleagues are shocked and distressed. They fear for the future and for the safety of loved ones and friends. Over the past week, Yale staff and faculty have been reaching out to them to offer support. For example, the Office of International Students and Scholars is working with each affected student. We're helping them with post-graduation plans, employment authorizations, and travel needs. We're monitoring developments regarding immigration options and sharing with students and scholars relevant updates. For undergraduates from Ukraine on financial aid, we will reevaluate the financial aid awards they receive if there are changes in your economic situation. We're advocating for policies that protect the legal status of Ukrainian students and scholars in the US during and beyond their studies here. We're supporting consultations with immigration attorneys for Ukrainian students and scholars who need assistance in navigating their future status in the United States. In the days ahead, we will continue to work with individual students in any way we can. In addition, faculty members on our campus are helping policymakers think through how to respond. The coming week, the Jackson Institute will be hosting an expert panel discussion. We will hear from faculty members who have long studied the history of the region and can share insights into the current conflict and anticipate what may come next and how we can respond. I very much hope the scholars and creative thinkers of our community can help the world chart a path toward peace. Right now, the spirit of division around the globe seems stronger than ever. We must respond by embracing the ways we are connected. Not all of us work or study in fields that can contribute solutions directly to global conflicts of this kind. But all of us play vital roles in creating an environment of peace and belonging at Yale and within all communities of which we are a part. So let us treat one another and ourselves with kindness and understanding. Let us approach our lives with gratitude and with mindfulness. During this time of crisis, it gives me hope when I see our community's commitment to one another and to peace. Please keep in mind, in your minds, the families and friends who are in the Ukraine right now, withstanding and surviving and combating this unjustified barrage. Thank you for joining us. I'll now turn things over to Secretary and Vice President for University Life, Kimberly Goff-Crews.
Thank you, President Salovey. I join the President in welcoming everyone to this Vigil for Peace. We are here to support our Ukrainian faculty, students, staff, and alumni, as well as those with ties to Ukraine, and to find strength in one another. Some of you may have been at the rally on campus today, And I know that there are other events going on this week, including one today with the symphony. Tonight, we create a virtual space to join people around the world in praying for an end to war in Ukraine and for peace. We know that events that seem rather distant have global effects. They can touch people around us and the people who are important to them. Of course, we do not need to have personal ties to Ukraine to feel shock, fear, and anger, and to wish for peace. Some of you here this evening may have experienced violence or war yourself. We are grateful for your presence and solidarity. We are profoundly affected by this week's events because we care for humanity in Ukraine, in the world, and at Yale. So I encourage all of us to look out for one another, especially people in your social communities, classes, and work settings, as we process what is happening. If you need it, I encourage you to seek support, whether from your school or residential college, mental health and counseling, the chaplain's office, our employee assistance programs, or of course from friends and family. As these events unfold, we will support members of our community from Ukraine, Russia, and the region in the ways that President Salovey described. We've got you. We really got you. And we will continue Yale's important work to serve humanity and to make for a safer, healthier, more equitable world. Before I turn to our next speaker, I would like to share some of Martin Luther King Jr.'s remarks when he received the Nobel Prize in 1964. He was speaking about the nuclear arms race, but his words have resonance tonight. He said, "So we must fix our vision not merely on the negative expulsion of war, but upon the positive affirmation of peace. We must see that peace represents a sweeter music, a cosmic melody that is far superior to the discords of war. Somehow, we must transform the dynamics of the world's power struggle from the negative to a positive contest to harness man's creative genius for the purpose of making peace and prosperity a reality for all of the nations of the world. If we have the will and determination to mount such a peace offensive," he said, "we will unlock tightly sealed doors of hope and transform our imminent cosmic elegy into a psalm of creative fulfillment." Again, thank you for joining us. I will now turn to Yuliia Zhukovets, a junior in Yale College and a citizen of Ukraine.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Kimberly, for everything you said. My name is Yuliia, and I'm a junior in Franklin, and I was born and raised in Kyiv, Ukraine. As President Salovey and Kimberly have already mentioned, an unthinkable is happening right now in my home country in Ukraine. On the 24th of February at 5 a.m., Putin invaded Ukraine, invaded my home country, and forever changed my life and lives of millions of other Ukrainians. I was lucky enough to not be there when everything started and not to be there right now. And I understand and I acknowledge how lucky I am, but millions of people who are still in Ukraine are not that lucky. Everyone who is still in the major cities and in the areas of active military actions have to spend days and nights hiding in the bomb shelters, trying to protect themselves against the Russian missile attacks. However, the Ukrainian army has been extremely successful with fighting the Russian forces. We won most of the ground battles, and we continue to stop the Russian invasion and continue to stop them against progressing further into the country. It is really tough being away from home and not being able to be there for my family. But I hope, as most of you know, there was a 2 p.m. rally for Ukraine on Cross Campus. And by this, I'm trying to support my country, support my family, and do everything I can, being thousands of miles away. I have received incredible support from the administration, from my fellow students, from other Ukrainians at Yale in Yale Med School and Yale Divinity School and from Yale New Haven Hospital. The support that Yale has given me has been incredible, and I cannot imagine a better place to be right now. I urge all of you to take a minute today to think how lucky and privileged you are to be away from the war right now, and how lucky you are to be in the US, or wherever you are right now, where you're tuning in, not to be in the active military zone where the war against humanity, the war against one of the oldest nations in Europe, the genocide of Ukrainian people is happening right now. Thank you all for coming here. This means a lot to me. This means a lot to my family. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm gonna pass it to Sharon Kugler, the university chaplain. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yuliia. You've shown such grace and strength this last week, and our prayers are with you. My beloved Yale family, this is a vigil calling for peace, and my words are intended to both amplify that call and turn it into action. Our world, this beautiful yet imperfect world that we all share, breaks a little bit more every day. We have been living with a deep burden of global unrest, uncertainty, grief, and fear that is starting to feel brutally defiant in its staying power. Our spirits are suffering under the stress of it all. And now here we are, gathered in this imperfect way across these many screens, longing for connection, for reasons to hope, longing for multiple kinds of peace. What can we do thousands of miles away from a new war, a new invasion to bring peace? This is a vigil calling for peace. Peace in Ukraine, where people are fleeing, hiding, or preparing to lose their very lives in defense of their home, their way of life. This is a vigil calling for peace, peace in all places where aggression, poverty, ignorance, and violence oppresses and destroys our human family. This is a vigil calling for peace, peace in our aching hearts, so that we can find the strength to keep going and to be part of a kind of healing that is restorative. This is a vigil calling for peace, peace in our minds, so that we can use them to create a more just world where power of means or might is used to elevate the human condition and to cherish our planet. This is a vigil calling for peace, peace in our relationships with others, where we can see and be seen for the uniquely beautiful mysteries contained in each of us. This is a vigil calling for peace, peace in the light, peace in the dark, peace in the big, peace in the small, peace in the weak, peace in the strong. This is a vigil calling for peace. One of my favorite prayers is also a hymn. It's the prayer of St. Francis. In its entirety, it's a distinctly Christian prayer. However, the first part feels accessible to all people, and it is in this moment a much needed balm for the soul. The prayer asks for us to be instruments of God's peace. The prayer reveals that making peace is in our hands. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. This is a vigil calling for peace. May you be shalom. May you be salam. May you be shanti. May you bring peace. I now invite you to join me in observing a moment of silence, honoring those across the world, particularly in Ukraine, who have been lost, those who are grieving, and those living in fear for what might be coming next. Focus simply on being still. Let your mind turn to what it might mean to be an instrument of peace. Thank you. This concludes the formal part of this vigil. I invite you to linger a bit in this Zoom space. We have arranged for a couple of pieces of music to be played to soothe your soul. Let the music bless you, and then please feel free to leave when you are ready, and perhaps seek out a friend to connect with over dinner this evening. Call a family member just to check in, or introduce yourself to someone new, and be an instrument of peace. Thank you so much for joining us today. Peace be with you, and God bless the people of Ukraine.